going to load up the early morning Portrait 800, which doesn't appear that I brought. Last roll, last chance, Portrait 800. And I'm going to do a few photos while we walk in here. This is already starting to look pretty nice. So this is the Fuji GA645w. It's probably one of my favorite cameras, to be honest. The photos that we got back in Iceland, when looking at them on a full screen, I was by far the most impressed with them. Also, there's an amazing Bronco right behind you. And looking at the full scans from this camera specifically, I don't know if, I feel like when you watch it on YouTube, 35 and medium format look pretty close to the same. And after looking at the frames and looking at some prints, you can definitely 100% tell. I like this camera because it sounds like a video game. Okay. Medium format point and shoot. All you do is you just turn it on. It loads your film. Now, take some photos. Lens cap off. Very important, especially when you're shooting through a rangefinder or something that the eyepiece doesn't actually go through the lens. Because I have forgotten, I feel like the Bronco has to be the first photo of this trip, right? Here we go. Photo number 1. The only trick with this camera is you kind of have to babysit the autofocus. It's pretty good, but every now and then it'll pick up a reflection in the foreground and it'll focus you at a meter rather than infinity like you want. Wasn't quite wide enough. Wish this was just a little more GA645w. Man, what a cool area. One thing I will say is that the noise this camera makes is terrible. When you're shooting any sort of different camera, you feel better about the experience, but I don't know, this is pretty cool. I feel like I'm just gonna slide down this into you. I think that wraps it up with the GA645w. We're now going to go on to the Contax T3. Another style of film camera is the point and shoot. It's very simple. It does exactly what it says. You point it, you turn it on, you shoot. Most of it's usually automated, so you don't get a whole lot of controls manually. The reason you would use a point and shoot like this is because it very easily just fits into your pocket. You can bring it anywhere. In here I have Portrait 400, which is a film that I feel like is good for the morning. It's gonna make those tones a little bit maybe warmer than real life, as well as give me the ISO that I need. This camera begins at f2.8, so f2.8, it's still kind of just pre-sunrise out here, so I need a little additional ISO, and yeah, let's go for a walk. Maybe a tip if you are looking to get brighter saturations from your colors in your photos. It's not necessarily in the post-processing or the film that you choose, it's actually in the lighting of the scene. So as you can see behind us here, some sunlight has finally started to arrive on the houses, and that basically just brings out all the natural color in that house. Had there been no sun, it still looks nice. It's definitely just a different color palette, so maybe choose what you like, but the more light that you have on a subject, the more it's going to actually just bring out those colors. To a point, once the sun starts to get a little too harsh, we'll talk about that in another section, but in the morning golden hour, it's very, very nice to have the direct sun on houses and some boats and some trees. We're now at the Venice Pier and going to do a few photos. I don't know if we're too late. There might be some surfers out there. We saw some dudes with boards running to the water, so there's probably still some surfers. With digital, I'll shoot frames a lot more backlit, kind of like what you're seeing here. If Marshall wants to come around, I would shoot a digital frame like this a lot more. When I'm shooting film, because this is a little bit more of a difficult exposure to get, it's a lot easier to just kind of shoot with the light, or at least shoot on some level with the light. So we're going to grab some photos of the surfers while they come through here, but just having them naturally lit by the scene, not trying to do anything too creative in order to limit my failures, I guess, this morning. So I shot a few action shots, but the shots that I actually liked the best were the ones with kind of more of a still life scene, with the surfers kind of floating there looking off into the airplanes taking off from LAX. And honestly, this wasn't the frame that I went in envisioning, and I was open to the fact that it existed and that it was something that I preferred in the field. So a testament to getting out there and being open to whatever the conditions are to direct your photos, rather than trying to be stuck to a specific thing that you want to create, because that's going to make you frustrated.